Ever notice someone dragging large black bags through the hospital lobby and wonder who they are? That, my friend, is a medical device rep. Welcome to Device Guys. Your hosts, Brent Lloyd and Jason Doliak, bring 50 years of combined medical sales experience to the table, sharing insights, stories, and a behind-the-scenes look at this fascinating world. Enjoy the conversations.
Hey everybody, I'm Brent, he's Jason, we're the Device Guys. Welcome to the podcast. Jason, how do you do?
I do quite well. How do you do, Brent?
I do just fine, thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome back.
I know, episode 6, here we are. We're coming off a high.
That was fun.
Jed DeVries.
Jed was fantastic.
I feel like he really emptied the clip, don't you?
Yeah, but that's a good metaphor. I'd say he emptied the clip. Sure. Yeah.
Good for, he made a David Goggins reference.
He made a Dave Goggins reference. He came in with that tasteful short sleeve shirt and guns. It's just like, geez,
he looked good. He looked good. In fact, I was going to comment, but I see you've done that button up.
Yeah.
When we first sat down, you had that button down.
It was open. It was not.
And I was going to make a joke of it, but you've buttoned it up.
I
call.
headed you off at the pass with that one.
Good call. We should shout out Mike Whitlock right now.
Mike Whitlock.
It's been a while since we've mentioned him.
It has
but
been.
Silver Tongue voiceovers.
Yeah, he's done
We were kind of sound testing before, and I think our guest has a voice that's very similar to Mike Whitlock.
It's very silky. Yeah, he's been in front of people before.
He's been in front of people before. You can see we're set up for a guest. We got a little different config today, and before we bring him out, we got a few things we're going to talk about.
Let's do it,
don't we?
Yeah.
I'd mentioned to you that I was scouting out a restaurant for a customer dinner.
Oh, is this your STK story?
STK.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys. It's a franchise.
It's a
right?
franchise.
Like,
yeah, we have them in Bellevue, in Washington. Yeah,
so we just got this STK in Salt Lake City, and I thought it would be, let's go check it out. Like do a customer dinner. I had a dinner planned with the University of Utah. With the team there. So I thought I'd go check it out, got online, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, but you're going to go do your due diligence, make sure this is
make sure I can keep it, kind of in the lane where it needs to be. And I noticed online there was a special, like a date night, steak night special.
Yeah.
And so I said to Heather, let's do this Thursday night. Let's try out that new restaurant, do the whole thing. And so we got there. And we sit down. It's nice room, nice lighting. Sit down. They bring us these 2 big leather-bound menus, and we're looking at it, and there's nothing on there that says, steak night, date night.
You think they're going to put the special on the leather-bound menu?
I'm
Come
saying.
on, wake up, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I bring it up to the waiter.
I'm sure he loved it.
I'm like, I was online. I'm bringing in a big group of people in, next Tuesday, and I noticed online when I was kind of looking at the menu that you had a date night special, and crestfallen might be the best.
Crestfallen?
Yeah, it's like he went from being like this attentive waiter to a type of thing.
How did he not know? I mean, you guys had to have been there. What, 4:45? It was. Pretty
Jason,
early.
I'm not 80.
Well, it's early bird special. I know how you guys roll.
Oh, do you know how we roll?
Well, on a test run, I mean, this guy should have been rolling out the red carpet and seeing that you've
right. Like that's why I threw that out.
Of course, yeah.
Anyway, away go the leather-bound menus, and he comes out. It's like this. It's like a mimeographed.
Pulled it out of
Xerox. I'm going to use the word Xerox.
Did he pull it out of his pocket?
He pulled it up.
Smoothed it out?
Yeah, smoothed it out.
Smoothed it out.
He gave one to, like Heather's mortified. She's like, what is this? Yeah, so we were second-class citizens at that moment.
Did it feel uncomfortable? How did it feel?
A little bit.
Did you make eye contact with Heather? Was there any nonverbal?
There was definitely some nonverbal, like what is happening here, and then you look around, and then you become a target for the other tables. Like why do they have those paper menus?
Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah, you felt like the proletariat a little bit.
Yeah,
you
were on the bottom of the Titanic.
Yeah. Anyway, once we got the paper menus off the table, it was hey look,
it was normal.
It was an appetizer.
Yeah,
it was choose your entree, and steak, salmon, whatever. And then 2 sides to share and a dessert and a glass of sparkling.
Ooh.
Yeah. You couldn't go wrong. Could not go wrong. Anyway, we had a nice night once those paper menus got off the table.
How was the interaction with the server the entire night? Because when there's guys when they're trying to make that next close on hey, let me get you another.
We were definitely triaged to the end, the bottom.
Right.
Like we weren't the chest pain in the ER. We were more like I got a sore throat. That's where we went. We went from there to there.
Right.
Anyway, the dinner turned out good with the team at the U. But I will say it was it was expensive, and I had to give the speech.
Oh, how'd the speech go?
You know the speech?
Did they have a good room?
They had a good room, private room. I had a screen. It was good. But let's talk about the speech.
Let's talk about the speech. What do you got?
Well, there's a limit. There's the AdvaMed code.
Yeah.
On what you can spend on dinner.
You gave that. Yeah, because that's uncomfortable. You can't. You got to jerk that menu right out of someone's hands real quick.
Maybe not the menu, but the wine list.
The wine list,
for sure.
Listen, I'm going to take that.
I took the wine list.
I'm going to be in charge.
That's
of
where I
tonight.
started.
Yeah.
But then when you look and you see what you're going to spend, and I got a limit of like $125 per person. That's before tax and tip. Mm-hmm. But we pushed it. But it's a little uncomfortable when you got your whole table looking at prices.
It feels weird.
A little bit weird.
And to play the hall monitor when people are ordering, you're not going to go with the hollandaise and the.
Do you really need that Oscar style?
Do you need the Oscar style?
Come on.
Listen, no surf and turf.
That.
You pick a surf or a turf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this guest we're going to bring out has probably been to 1,000 customer dinners.
At least. I'm very interested. This is a guy I'm super interested in.
No, I mean, this guy's been a friend of the podcast from the very, very beginning.
Really?
This is way back, 2 months ago.
Wow,
yeah.
that long?
It's a long time he's been with the podcast. We're going to bring him out, and he's going to be a lot of fun to talk to. Let's introduce Don Dunn.
Welcome, Don. I had a thought the other day of something that I think possibly could have ruined the demographic and the body habitus of this nation is the muffin. The muffin. Because you think it's healthy. It's a bran muffin. You eat it for breakfast.
That's right.
It's cake.
It is cake.
It's cake in a wrapper that you eat for breakfast. Let's start your day. And Costco, with those muffins, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That could feed a family of 4, one muffin. I grew up in high school, and we used to have trays of that stuff in the cupboard. It's the most insane thing you can even imagine.
It's amazing that your BMI is where it is.
Well, I was in a household where I had a guy that went from 5'10" to 6'10" and would eat to stay full. I didn't get to eat anything. You've seen me. Yeah, my brothers are freaking monsters.
Did you happen to watch the episode with Jason in the 100-hour fast?
And you made it through?
No, I did not make it through. I made it to 86
Wait a minute.
hours.
Are you a friend of the podcast
I'm
or not?
I'm an original friend of the podcast.
Okay.
But I missed the 100-hour fast one.
Well, you
I'm
got
gonna have to go back.
You better go. You're traveling later today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an airplane listen.
Yeah, it's an airplane listen.
Okay.
It's an airplane listen for sure.
Don, let's talk about who you are. What's your job right now? Let's start with what's your job right now.
Right now, I am the Chief Commercial Officer over at the Levitt Group's, the insurance company Levitt Group GBS stands for Group Benefit Services. So that is an independent, privately owned company, the Levitt Group, and we do employee benefits. So
Levitt is a big name in Utah.
It's a big name in Utah.
Former governor
Yep.
Mike Levitt was the director of Health and Human Services.
Yep.
And his father was the founder of the
That's right, Dixie Levitt. Right. He's still there in his
he really?
90s. Yep. Dixie and Nan Levitt, just an amazing, amazing couple. And an amazing family, quite frankly, that really, I sat down with Mike's brother, Eric Levitt, who's the president and CEO of the Levitt Group, and really a lunch with him, and it was, really that tipped me over coming. It's amazing to see a family, that starts something and then a second generation of children who have an absolute understanding and commitment of stewardship of what their parents built, and then to enhance it.
Yeah.
And Mike did a phenomenal job before he then went on to governor, and then a couple of the other brothers had taken over, and then Eric now leads us, and it's,
That's
amazing.
awesome. You've been there
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
But that wasn't your
flies.
career. The reason you're even on this show is because you came from med device.
Right.
Yeah, 18 years.
And I think your story is, you got a cool story, and people always want to know, how did you get into med device?
Yeah.
And I like your story. You want to talk about how you started, what your job was before you got into med device. Jason and I both talked about that. We started as bartenders.
Nice.
Before we got in.
Classically trained.
Classically trained bartenders.
Yep.
Talk about what you did. What was your job before you got in?
So before I was doing med device, I was selling for U92, Utah's hip hop station, and 94.9 The Blaze, your rock station.
94.9
That's
The
exactly right.
Blaze.
94.9 The
They were-
Blaze.
So one was hip hop.
One was hip hop.
One was pop.
One was pop, and then one was rock. So, and we're talking 94.9 The Blaze, right? You're gonna be rolling down the street, and Van Halen's just gonna come at you, right? And
You
you're
know
not,
it is.
You're not
Panama,
sure.
maybe.
Panama.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, and those are the moments in the car. You just got to let that wash over you.
You just got to let it wash over you.
you gotta let it
can
wash
you
over
say,
you.
Jason, try this. Like you're a DJ, 94.9 The Blaze.
94.9 The Blaze. Weather and traffic on the nines.
That's exactly right.
And were they a market leader? Don?
They weren't a market leader. No, we were a market leader in hip hop. So we just owned the 12 to
It was-
17-year-old demographic at the time.
Yeah, there was no
Yeah.
hip hop listeners
Yeah,
in Utah.
that's
What
exactly
year?
right.
Was
What year?
this?
What year was this?
This is 2003 to 2005.
So
right?
what are you marketing to this station as far as advertising revenue? Pokemon and
Yeah, a little
Capri
Pokemon.
Sun?
Yeah, some of my top clients
stuff.
were payday loan places, maybe some colleges, right? Utah Career College, Eagle Gate College, get some
Right.
people going to school. But
Yeah, how do you prospect for that? Like, first I want to know, what was the interview process like to get that job?
Yeah,
Was it competitive, or was it kind of a layup? You're willing to do this, Don?
yeah,
Come on.
yeah, that's right.
What was that like?
Yeah, I have a great friend who's actually in med device now. I actually brought him over to Merit Medical. But Nick Francis, his dad was the vice president of the Utah Jazz. So growing up with him, it was like we were at game one of the first Jazz Clippers series, and then we were at the Kobe Bryant airball game, right? The years we went to the finals, the Jazz heydays. Anyway, so we became friends in high school, and he was selling radio because his dad was just in the advertising and marketing piece. He was a big name in Utah.
That's a good connection.
Yeah, really
right.
good, really good connection. Jay Francis, who is still a dear friend, and he worked for Gail and Larry Miller for years. So I called Nick and said, hey, I got to do something different. I was just brand new married. He's like, come interview here. So I interview with Lutisha Merrill. She is the sales manager for U92. I go in, interview her. I didn't even know what the hell to say, right? This is like, I'm 21, 22 years old.
College degree.
Not even a college degree.
You didn't even have a college degree?
No, because I did the mission, right? So it's like I'm 2 years behind. I'm enrolled at Salt Lake Community College, paying my own way, and
Married.
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 So I'm going to school in the mornings. So I can't even start work until about 1 o'clock, right? Because I'm in a full semester of school. And she says, I'll tell you what. I see something in you. I'm going to give you a shot. And she offered me a $2,250 commission draw for 3 months. I thought I hit the jackpot.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a hell of a deal for me, right?
3 months?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months,
Oh,
and then
my
it was
God.
all commission, and it was one of those situations where I just took off with it and loved it.
That's awesome. It's the pressure of having to do it.
Yep.
I bet having a wife was at home that you had to provide for, and all the stuff really motivated you.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
the pressure of having a number at 22 years old, where you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to go eat what I kill right now.
Yeah.
And learning that at that age, which feels infant. I'm thinking about my kids. My kids are that age.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter's doing it. She's getting it done.
Right.
But from a standpoint of really understanding that this is, let's go out and execute.
Yep.
That's fantastic at that age.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And to be in an all-commission sales job, it was. But that gave me the first taste of, this was my first sales job. Wow, this is what you can do if you can get in and sell. And so, love that. But there was a guy, Chad Hubler, who got newly hired, and he was like, look, I'm going to get out of this. I'm interviewing to go into med device. And I was like, well, what do you mean? What's med device? Is that you go in and like sell pharmaceuticals? He's like, no. You don't want to do that. You want to do medical device. You'll go into surgery and help the physicians and do that. And so I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And, I grew up, my dad was a social worker. He was a music major. I played sports. I love sports. My dad, he and I never played catch. So growing up, doing activities with my dad, he would take me to the symphony or we would go to Broadway plays. I mean, you try being 15 and on a Friday night, your dad's like, no, son, we're going to the symphony. And so you mentally and emotionally, you go and you endure this.
That's
And
a
then you're
that's a form of child abuse.
Oh,
I'm
it
sorry.
is.
Do respect your dad.
It is.
Don.
And it's like you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I got through that. And then you're told, no, that's intermission. Right? And you gotta go further. So
Dude, I had that experience at Wicked just a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh, that was good. I really liked it.
Yeah.
They're like,
No, we're back.
yeah.
well, yeah, okay.
Well, by the way,
I'm not allowed to go to musicals anymore because when I went to Phantom, I'm sitting in Phantom. It's comfortable seats and it's nice and dark.
You're out.
yeah.
Right.
I'm not invited back.
Yeah,
That's
you're
right. Yeah, so it was, I really didn't know what career path to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So Chad's in radio. Chad talks about this med device thing. So I'm out to lunch with a good friend of mine. We met on our missions, and we were talking about life. And I said, oh, I want to get into med device. He says, you know what? You should go talk to my dad. My dad was running for governor. This is Marty Stevens. He was the Speaker of the House of Utah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He was running for governor, and he's running against Huntsman Jr., Nolan Karras, right? Big Utah names. And then also Fred Lampropoulos, the CEO, the chairman, and the founder of Merit Medical. And so somehow they sit next to each other during, the kind of the whole campaign process, and they're hemming and hawing. They're kind of underdogs in the race, right, with the Huntsman name. So they build a great relationship. They don't win. Huntsman wins. Well, Fred Lampropoulos, calls up Marty Stevens to be his vice president of sales. So he's like, I'll reach out to my dad. So I reach out to Marty. I met him one time.
Right.
And then he says, yeah, come into Merit. So I'm sitting down with him. He's asking how it's going about sales at radio. Thankfully, I'm able to show.
Was he a listener of U92 The Blaze, or?
He wasn't. He's probably
for the
right on
best.
the cusp of, it probably stopped with Gordon Lightfoot. I don't know
Right.
if anything went past that.
Gordon was like the extreme.
Yeah, it was the extreme.
And then
He
it
was
was
way more on
yeah.
the John Denver
Carpenters.
Carpenters. Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Everything
It was
kinda
Carpenters.
south of-
yeah,
yeah, I got you.
exactly. If anything went into the ZZ Top, he probably hid it from his mother. So that's about where
Right.
about where I imagine Marty's, to be. So we sit down. He's asking me, what are you doing in radio? And I was able to show, like, hey, this is how I've been able to grow my book, and it's an all commission job. And he's asking me, and he just says to me, well, do you have a degree? And I'm like, no, I'm in school. And he's like, well, how long before you get your degree? And I'm doing the math, right, of like, well, hell, I got probably 2 more years of this, right? I'm
Right.
at Salt Lake Community College. I'm paying my own way. Thankfully, with selling commission, you can pay for your school. And then he says to me at the end of the interview, he goes, I'll tell you what, why don't you bring me your resume and I'll get you somewhere close, meaning close to Utah. And so I walk out of there and I tell my wife, and I said, was he serious? Because I'm thinking this is down the road,
Right.
years down the road to get into med device. So the next day, I walk a resume back into Merit Medical, give it to his assistant, Joan Loudon. I can still just remember. I mean, I even have her phone number memorized still. And so
That's great.
I take it back in. I start the interview process. I interview with the regional manager, and he's like, I can tell he's like, what the hell is Marty doing sending this young guy
Right.
in here? It was like fine, but I thought the interview went good, and then I hear like at the end of the day, like, oh, nope, thanks for coming. He checked the box,
Right.
to appease his boss. Right. Well, so I just keep following up with Marty. Well, I get a call from Marty, and he said, hey, I want you to come back and interview with the regional manager. I said, oh, really? What happened? And this was for the Sacramento, California position. He said, the guy that the manager hired failed his drug test.
He didn't study for it?
Didn't study for
He
it.
didn't study for his drug test.
Yeah, he didn't study for it, which, by the way, I will say, the friends of the podcast, you know a guy in Brent, if you need a drug test, you can help him with that, right? You can pass that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
for
just-
sure.
It's just something you learned in bartending.
Yeah, exactly.
So then the manager has like, he's lost his
He had his
leverage.
guy already.
Yeah.
So he was
So-
just checking a box.
I go back in, I interview. The nice thing is I had continued to grow my sales, and I had doubled my sales during that time. So I really had some good things to talk about, where it's like, okay, maybe this guy's got something.
What
from a
time
sales
frame
perspective.
was this over? Was it a couple of?
I would say this was probably around 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
So just in this process of like, by the time I got the job, right? So
Right.
they have me come back out and interview, and we're going to go move. We had just bought a house. We're going to go move to Sacramento. Well, during that time, I get another call from Marty, and he goes, would you want to stay in Salt Lake? He's like, yeah. Well, I said, yeah, that's where I'm from. And anyways, they made a move in regards to opening up Salt Lake, and Marty put me in quick. And you got to think about this from the standpoint of Merit's a Utah-based company. Can't imagine the people that were probably in line
Right.
for this. And Marty Stevens gave me a shot.
That's awesome.
He gave me a shot. And that was June 21st. The day I got the offer, I get home. My wife has a card for me, and it says, congratulations on the new job, Dad. So that is how she told me that we were pregnant with our first son.
Oh, no way.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And he's 19 years old now, and so he's off and running. And
Dude, that
it
is
was
cool.
awesome.
They saw something. They saw a kid that was hungry, that was willing to move,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
that. Like, there's so many people. Like, I'll move to. There's Brett Park, and we're gonna have Brett on this show, and he's like, I'll move to Las Vegas tomorrow. Like,
Casper, Wyoming. I'll move
move
out
to
there. Let's
Casper,
go.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
And the connections you made with people. This is what solidifies everything.
That's right.
Is the connections you make with people along the way.
Yep.
Still remembers names of all the people that you
Yeah.
encountered that helped you along the way. That's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's really lucky and fortunate,
Right.
right? That people give you an opportunity, and then they speak life into you along the way.
Right.
They give you the confidence to go do it. And so it's that really kicked off an 18-year career at Merit Medical, which was just an amazing, amazing time.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm happy for you. You know how things worked
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
But that thing you would have been better off for me. It would have been better for me had you gone to Sacramento.
That's right.
Way
Because
better.
It would have been better because I'm going to relay this story. I hope you don't mind. But,
Yeah.
But so I got this young guy from Merit Medical, Don Dunn, and your big product at that time was manifolds,
Manifolds, fluid
And
management. That's
fluid
right.
management,
That's
and
right.
inflation devices.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
I was at Boston Scientific. I was selling. I had fluid management.
Yep.
And I had an inflation device. And it was the bottom of my bag. I didn't pay much attention to it. It was just an annuity, Don.
That's right.
You know, I didn't really have to sell it.
It was a safe annuity at that time.
It was
Yeah.
safe. It had been safe for many years, you know. And I was, you know, I'm focusing on stents and balloons and rotoblader and cutting balloon, you know, all these things. And all of a sudden one day I kind of noticed, you know, what's happening at McKay-D? Are they just really slow? Because they haven't ordered any manifolds for a while. And then, you know, call up there. Oh, hey, Brent, we didn't think you'd mind, but we went with Merritt. We switched over. This guy, Don Dunn, he's a nice kid. You know, Merritt, local company.
Sharp guy, go-getter.
Sharp guy, go-getter, you know. We really like him. We're going to, we didn't think you'd mind. I'm like, you think I'd mind?
It's like switching out the Kleenex in the whole entire hospital system. And it's
There's
just the little things you go through that are part of every single procedure that nobody thinks about.
No, it was tough. And he systematically picked off like every hospital.
Every hospital except for LDS Hospital.
Which later became
IMC.
Yeah, I will give a shout out to Scott Allison. the cath lab manager at Intermountain.
He was a legend.
The guy's a legend, but he would not. He hated change.
He hated it.
In fact, you were working so hard on him.
Yeah.
They were the busiest one, right?
Yep,
They were.
That's right.
I mean, I think I kept Dixie. Did I keep Dixie?
No,
Maybe not.
I got that one.
God, Don.
It was only that, and Scott just finally pulled me aside. He said, "Don, don't make this hard on me. I don't want to do this. Sell something else." But he was so great about it.
You got the inflation devices.
Got the inflation devices and much more. Thank you.
Yeah, and much more. And you know the great thing you did, like you really, what you did, it was good for Scott too, because I got a phone call from Scott and he said, "Brent, I'm going to give you an opportunity." And I'm like, "Oh no." What kind of
That's
opportunity?
Right.
And he goes, "I'm going to give you the opportunity to save me some money." And I was selling those, I don't know what it was like $25.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know,
sure,
and you would come in with something lower.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure as a young sales guy, I was selling on price.
For sure.
Not knowing what the hell I was doing.
You were like, "Hey, I'm a local guy.
Yeah.
I'm cheaper. Come
Yep.
on, what else do I need to do?"
Yep.
Anyway, I didn't know how low I needed to go, and of course, Scott's not going to say. So I went, "How about 1995?" Anyway, I kept that business. That's
Yeah.
the only business.
Yep.
And I think Merritt has that hospital now.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so.
Recruiters would call me, and they'd say, "Do you know anybody like maybe would be good for this job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Don Dunn. Yeah. Call Don Dunn."
Which I would always have a steady flow.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize
Did you know
it was
it's
you
me?
trying to get me the
That
hell
was,
out of
that was
there.
everyone else trying to pick you off.
Yeah.
You provide opportunity
Opportunity comes
Yeah.
back.
for dismissal.
It's good for your ego. God, my phone's ringing.
I'm
just
just
like,
off the hook.
I didn't know it was just you trying to.
It was
I
me.
mean, and thankfully, you didn't just have me whacked or something on the side. Like I just disappeared, ended up in the desert somewhere.
No, the beautiful thing, like I feel like this is like, we're all competitive people and we all have competitors. Mm-hmm. But it never serves you to be an ass.
No, it doesn't.
You know,
doesn't.
you're
No.
gonna encounter these people in a different life, in a different context, and you know, be someone that is a class act.
And the fact of the matter is, in this industry, at the end of the day, we're helping patients.
That's right.
We're helping a healthcare system optimize care. That's what we're trying to do. And yes, we're trying to each deliver what our particular product and benefits in whatever lane it benefits in. But the people behind it, in my experience, have all been just great people and grow through it with them.
Right.
So not only is Brent, you know, really the beautiful face of the podcast. He's a beautiful soul
That
too.
hurts.
No, he's the eye candy.
Listen,
You bring in-
I know my
That's
role,
right.
man. Come on, listen, I'm self-aware.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but that's
Beautiful.
It's pretty cool to look back on this, right? All the years that we know. I mean, you could have been a total jerk, right? You could have just not talked to me, but you took a different approach, which I've always appreciated. So thank you, because it was just, you know, it's intimidating to go into the cath lab, and you've got Brent Lloyd and you've got Rob Rowley, right? You've got these legends that you're having to compete against, and you guys were at the top of your game. You still are. by the way.
Thank you. Look at that.
Wow.
This guy is a salesman.
But it was one of those things. So it was awesome, and that obviously kicked off years of us having a great relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's kind of come full circle. We went a long time without engaging. But then when I went to work with the company I'm with now, and I reached out to you for a couple of different things, and we kind of rekindled the relationship, and it's worked out great. I want to know more about after you were a successful device rep at Merit, then you went into management, and you eventually ran the whole show there.
I was able to become the vice president of the U.S. sales team. Did that. That was fantastic. Marty Stevens ended up retiring. Fred Lampropoulos gave me that opportunity to do that, and then really an opportunity to go over to the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer side, the business-to-business side of Merit Medical that people don't really know
I've
about.
never known original equipment manufacturer. That's what OEM
Yep.
is.
Yeah, you'll hear it a lot, like in the auto industry.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a big piece. But the cool thing about Merit Medical started in 1987 with the coronary control syringe, right? To contain that. So Fred Lampropoulos has the insight to go from glass syringes to polycarbonate.
Right.
And that really revolutionized Merit Medical and started Merit down that path. They later, become the market leader in inflation devices. Well, he created the business-to-business side, the OEM side, and started selling to the other medical device companies.
And let's give a little context. So when we say inflation devices or manifolds or fluid management, like every single cath lab,
Yep,
every single radiology suite,
that's right.
neuroradiology, so every single place that puts a catheter in an artery uses fluid management system.
That's right.
Yep.
And an inflation device if they're going to do an intervention. So that's how they inflate the balloons and the stents that they're using. And so Merit has a huge footprint.
Big time. I would bet that Merit across the world now, every single day, probably touches every heart cath, every procedure. If not, pretty darn close with the footprint they have and the fact that you need that fluid management, you need those inflation devices, you need the access, you need all of that. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, the end of my first year in 2005, Merit Medical did $151 million in sales. When I left at the end of 2022, it did $1.3 billion in sales.
That is
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen they had a little place in Murray.
Yep, that was their first spot.
And now
That's
they've
right.
got this huge complex that's out in South Jordan.
Yep.
The big, beautiful
9800
building.
South and Merit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. And the other thing that I think is cool about Merit is the stuff they make is it just flies under the radar.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Right? No,
Yeah,
no
not
one
the
is,
sexy devices,
Yeah.
right, that you're selling now.
No, we're constantly defending the price of what we do, what you do. You get an RFP every couple of years, and but no one really is worried about their stopcock price,
That's exactly right.
right?
Yeah.
Our tubing.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
really got to work on our tubing
Yeah.
costs.
Yep.
And so it's a good business. It's
It
probably
is.
pretty stable, very predictable, and it grows because the population is aging and all the things.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's
So-
the infrastructure piece that makes all the other procedures possible.
Yep.
I mean, it's the roadway.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
So you have this awesome career at Merit. You do the OEM stuff. We were talking earlier about kind of some of the opportunities OEM presented you with.
Yeah.
Just the relationships you've built and the connections you've made across industry. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the most amazing things is that I went to really all the key people in our space from the pacemaker side, electrophysiology, the cath lab, interventional neuro. I went across the country because they're all clients of Merit. Merit's doing roughly $150 million in their OEM division, but all those products out to the market is north of $2 billion in devices.
Right.
That Merit is playing a key role in helping deliver that. So to go out to like Abiomed in Danvers, Massachusetts, and to go to Medtronic, to go to Boston Scientific, to go to Abbott St. Jude, to go to Penumbra, to go to Biotronic, to go to Cook Medical, to go to Biomet. You go to all these places. And what was amazing is when you would go into these amazing companies is how the internal marketing for those people that are coming in to work every day, Stryker here in Salt Lake City, that there was an absolute mission and vision around the patients they were ultimately serving.
That's awesome.
Right? That you go in there and you see, at Abiomed, they have their training rooms are named after patients, one of which was a patient here in Salt Lake City. I remember seeing her name, about lives that you save. And so it's different than any other industry where, okay, I'm coming into a manufacturing job, but the company that I work for takes such amazing care of me, provides a great employee experience for me, but that we're connected to saving lives every single day. It's such an amazing industry, and to be able to see that on that scale was truly incredible. To go really to the major hubs, Boston, Massachusetts, Minneapolis, Northern and Southern California, also in Texas a little bit of
Indiana. There's a big orthopedic presence in Indiana.
Big one in Indiana, as well as Cook Medical, who really in the cath lab, interventional radiology spaces was just an amazing company as well. So you just get to see all of this, and you get to see just this relentless commitment to improve patient lives. And, now that I'm on the insurance side, not only what Med Device does to save lives, they are also doing everything from an innovation standpoint to cut and reduce costs and hospital stays, right? When your focus is on saving lives and really going about doing everything we can to support the physicians, the nurses and the techs, the procurement, the hospital administration, to deliver the best value possible that will ultimately save lives and cut down costs. What medical device does and really doesn't get the credit of what it does to improve lives, save lives, but cut costs across the healthcare industry. Just think of the innovation going from the femoral approach to the radial approach. Now you're delivering a heart valve, and you're not cracking the chest, right? And you think of all the things that are happening, your devices on your side getting smaller, everything that's happening.
Lasting longer, more reliable.
Yeah.
We're trying to improve the ecosystem.
That's exactly right. And I believe Med Device doesn't get the credit that it deserves. And the physicians, that's what's amazing about the physicians that we call on. Like the fact that they're so open to improving their techniques and improving at the end of the day to get better for their patients.
I think that is so well said, and I think that when you say device doesn't get, med device industry doesn't get the credit for it, it's because innovation comes at a cost, right? There's a lot of investing that goes to bring something to market, and to have that something be a life-changing, a procedure-changing, a paradigm shift, it's expensive. Yeah. And the procedure is always way more expensive. But when you look at long-term costs, and we talk about population health, and these are all topics in insurance that you talk about, it's better for the system financially. But the reason I don't think we get the credit is because the initial upfront cost is always more.
Yeah.
And so you've got different interests in every hospital that are trying to drive what's happening, and it's an ecosystem. It's a balance for sure.
It is, and the amount of investment it takes to get a medical device off the ground, and the labor of love that's happening there. It's amazing that you can actually make a profit in some of these cases because there's so much pressure. These hospital systems have done an amazing job. You bring up Scott Allison. He was one of the best stewards and negotiators I've ever come across.
100%.
Right? And it was Scott always had, and there's many others, and we all ran the same territory. I mean, the people in this market, the talent, right? The physicians, the nurses, the techs, the procurement, the lab managers. I mean, these people they're at the top of their game. They never negotiated in bad faith, but there was just a standard and an expectation to deliver the absolute most innovative, best product that was going to be at the right cost.
Right.
It's just an amazing, amazing industry that really does not get the credit it deserves on what it does for the hospital system, and
Right.
most importantly for the patient.
Right. We're about at 40 minutes, I
Yeah.
think, right now, and we could go for another 40. I think with your next chapter. Would you come back on?
Oh, I'll come back on. Absolutely.
Because you're a friend of the podcast.
I'm a friend of the podcast. I got to go back and see what happened, why we didn't get to the 90 hours.
Oh, yeah,
We didn't make 90. He had a goal of 100, but
Yeah.
he didn't make that. He got mid-80s.
I got mid-80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
86.
let's take that flight to Houston
Yeah.
today, and
And we might be able to tell some Jed DeVries stories.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
good Jed
Or,
stories.
or we pull out some Dr. Borman stories, maybe some Ed Miner stories. We started to pull it out. I've got some dirt on some people in the lab that are probably friends of the podcast. I would love to get into that stuff.
Let's do that. That'll be the next topic. When you talk about Ed Miner,
Yeah.
we're going to have Ed Miner on, but he was reluctant to come on because he wanted to see how it went.
Yeah, that's right.
And
This will grease the skids for Dr. Miner.
Jason
Yeah.
says just good judgment.
It's good judgment.
Right, he's
Yeah.
a smart guy.
No, it'd be great to have Ed on.
Why don't you tell, like you're leaving today to go to Houston. Tell the audience why you're going to Houston. This is kind of fun.
My goodness. So you've heard of Dance Moms,
Yeah.
right? And they do shows. Well, I am 100 times worse than a dance mom. I'm a dad of a quarterback, of a high school quarterback. So we're going to do our hair and makeup, and we're going to go fly down to Houston. So my son Aiden, who's a quarterback, he'll be going into his senior year at West Jordan High School. He is going down to throw it in Houston. Then we're turning around, getting on a plane. And so the weekend that we thought we were going to have, detours. So we're just out there trying to navigate the craziness of this new college football landscape, which, NIL and all this stuff, it's trickled down to high school, and just the intensity of it, it's crazy. So it's way worse than anything you see on those reality shows with dance moms.
Well, good luck to Aiden. Good luck to you
thank
guys
you.
on that
Yeah.
trip. When you
thank
come
you,
back,
guys.
we're going to talk about GBS. Maybe we'll even talk about my kid.
Yeah,
Who
we need to talk about Chloe.
who you have a relationship with now
Yep.
because she's working for you over at GBS.
Yeah, and she's amazing. And I said, how is your dad's background and you being around him, how has that helped you? And she said, it hasn't. I get all this from my mom. So
It's
I don't know.
100%
That's
correct.
100% right.
I'm not sure. I
Sharp
didn't know
kid.
if that was a shot. I didn't know what happened.
It's not a shot. It's just the truth.
It's just the truth.
It's just the truth.
Hey, thanks for coming on the
Thank you, guys.
podcast. That was
Appreciate you.
awesome. That was a good hang. I think it was a good hang.
I loved it. It was fantastic. Thanks for coming. It was really fun. I hope
my
you guys
pleasure.
enjoyed it.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. We owe you guys a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you for tuning in, whether you listened to it or whether you watched it. Thanks for joining us.
If you see someone out there without a smile on their face, give them one of yours.